Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Our guest today is the former owner of 13 ITP tax offices, the founder of Silver & Young Private Wealth, and has shown more than 3,000 business people across Sydney how to reduce their tax, create financial wealth, and retire 10 to 15 years earlier. Today, he's going to show us how you can protect your spouse or deceased partner in the unlikely event of death in business. Please put your hands together and help us welcome to the Win Sales Now podcast, our good friend, Dimitri Agrios.
Thank you.
Dimitri, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Daniel and Nini.
Yeah, welcome.
It's our pleasure. Now, I've got a question for you. I'm young, I'm rich, I'm at the top of my field, and I'm bulletproof. You could shoot me with a silver bullet and I won't die. I've got a good-looking wife. My children are both talented, and everything's going right in my life. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to live forever. But in the last 12 months, two close friends, same age of me, have been walking along and dropped dead. And now I'm thinking that I'm not going to live forever. So what's going to happen to my business if I do drop dead?
There are a couple of issues you have to address. Number one, that you are young, healthy, successful. This is a very good news. Having a supporting wife and a family, also very good news. But what we try to do in a financial point of view, that every time we go a step higher, we need to protect whatever we achieved to the best possible way. But what I'm trying to say is that every time you go one step higher to the ladder, you want to protect. So if you fall back due to any misfortune or unforeseen event, you don't fall back to where you started. You just fall back a little bit, but just not rock bottom where you started 20 years ago or whatever years ago. Now, are you married? You have two children. So if Daniel, or 40 years old today, was not married with two children, we'll have a different protection plan than a Daniel with Nini and two children. Now, if Nini is working, is a different plan that if Nini doesn't work and it's just a stay-at-home mom. So there is a lot of variable stuff that we need to consider to protect the really nothing bulletproof Daniel. And one of these reasons is that we try to protect Daniel in several ways. So Daniel, as a single man, not married, has less needs to protect if something happens to him and pass away. But it's a lot more important to protect his income and his well-being if he's alive. So if, for example, a 40 years old man, something happens to him and has an accident, his parents will be grieving, his relatives, his brothers, his sisters. But at the end of the day, nobody expects to benefit anything for a single man. But you marrying and you have two children, there are three souls next to you, depend on you. Even if Nini is working and earning exactly the same money like you, still there are two vulnerable children and a wife or a spouse that depends on your financial well-being. So to take your, for example, position as you are now, we need to protect your life. We need to protect if you are disabled. We need to protect if you have an issue with producing the same income due to illness. And we need to protect if you have a major illness. But I'll just be a bit more simple. Say, for example, if your loan is $1 million, somehow you need to consider, if something happens to me, what is going to happen to Nini and $1 million loan? Maybe you have $2 million asset and $1 million loan. So this $1 million loan, what happens? You want Nini to be debt-free, you want Nini to sell the $2 million property or business, pay $1 million to the bank, and stay the rest of her life with this million and move on with her kids? So this is a question we throw back to you with some guidance from us, but you have to answer this question. Do you want to take this risk on your shoulders, or you want to give some of this risk to someone else by paying a premium?
I'll just ask the boss straight away.
Yeah, ask the boss. So
I dropped dead.
ask
You want $1 million debt?
No,
Why not?
that's a lot of money.
Do you want somebody else to take care of it so you don't have to?
Of course.
Maybe they should introduce this into wedding vows. Will you take me? And when I die, pay off all of my debts?
That's great. No.
Would you want? No.
No.
Now, you said something interesting there. Do you want to pay it for yourself, or do you want to transfer the debt to somebody else? How do you do that? Because now I'm thinking about it. Of course, I love my wife, so I don't want her to have to pay my debts when I die. But I've never heard of that. I'm ignorant to that. How do you do that?
Basically, it is a simple proposition. One is, for example, you apply for a life insurance to an insurance company. So if person A dies, this person, the beneficiary of his will, they will receive $1 million. And this is also a little bit more complicated when you have children. Okay, you have $1 million debt and $2 million assets, but you have a child who is 2 years old and another child who is 8 years old. So this is still have, say, the 8 years old has another 10 years before they start earning some money working in McDonald's or something, as a teenager. And the little one has another 15, 16 years. So this is also a burden to the surviving partner. What's going to do with these children, especially if they don't have family support. And don't forget, this insurance and these policies and this protection, it doesn't apply if just something happens to Daniel. What about if Daniel is still fine, but something happens to Nini? Because if Nini is not there to look after your children, to look after your affairs at home, and have the peace of mind that you go back home, everything is nice, clean, tight, you have a cooked meat, protected, everything is fine. You can't do what you do. You can't travel the traveling you have. You can't concentrate on your job. You can't do late afternoon, early mornings, meetings, travel, because who's going to look after these two children? So really, it doesn't apply just to the main earner of the family. This protection applies also to the supporting family, which doesn't have a dollar value as dollars earned per year and taxed, but is an enormous support for you to able to earn this money, to able to do Daniel Tolson marketing company and explore and take your career path. Without this other half, you can't do it, having just the two children. So it is both sides.
As you mentioned it, the both sides, it's something that you don't really think about. Okay, so I run the business, but what if my wife dies? Because what happens here in my office, Nini's really busy. She brings me coffee, passes it through the window, so I don't have to leave the desk. And people say, well, that's ridiculous. No, the time is so important that if I hop up and make a coffee, that might be 15 minutes out of my day. That's 15 minutes of time we can't serve our customers. My window also opens and hot food comes through. But now I've got to think about that. If I didn't have my wife helping me there's probably at least 2 hours of the day where I can't sell my time. And as a serious professional, I sell my time. Now, who gets the kids up to go to school? Who picks them up from school? That's another 4 hours. And that's not including parent-teacher interviews. I mean, that's a totally new insight.
Now you know I'm very important, right?
Oh, well, we're going to have the new question's going to be like this. Wife, how much do you love me? And the answer, the question will be, show me the size of your insurance policy. And the answer will be not enough.
Absolutely.
But I think
this is, yes, Nini.
Yeah, I just when you explained that, I just pop up with one of the news last year. One of our Taiwan celebrity, actor. He died in the heart attack. And then, as you said, he just bought a new home, $1 million debt. The wife didn't expect because the actor only 38 years old in the peak period. And then the wife was devastated because now all the debt is on her, and he has to go to the court and file a bankrupt. Like she said, I couldn't afford it because she doesn't have a job.
What's the average period of time a widower can maintain their lifestyle for after the death of their partner? How long can they survive and maintain that lifestyle with no insurance?
It depends on the repayments of the loans. It depends of the reserves, cash reserves, or other investments they have. Because you see, every loan, say every $1 million loan, it doesn't have exactly the same characteristics. And I'll explain. If your $1 million loan is attached mostly to your personal home residence, has a different character than if it is an investment property. Because the investment property, you receive your income from your rent, you have some tax reductions. So it's a little bit more different than if you just is a personal loan and personal debt. So these different characteristics have a different way to represent how the surviving spouse can manage their affairs. Of course, the more cash reserves there are, or the more diversified the income are, and not related directly to that person, to the main earner, it is less vulnerable. The other thing is we need to address is, we always address their life. So if I'm dead, what my wife will get? What about if I'm not dead and I'm disabled? And I cannot produce what I produce. I cannot fly around. I cannot meet people to the extent that I do. And then I'm bound in a chair, or in a wheelchair, or in a bed. Then you see, the death of a family member, it's very traumatic, and it is very, 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 very significant, especially for the younger children. But eventually, it is a wound that slowly it will heal with a lot of scars for everything surviving, especially the younger the parent is. But at the end of the day, the wound will close slowly with a lot of scars sometimes, but it's still close, and the people surviving will move on. But if, for example, I'm 40 years or 45 or 50 or 60, and I'm not dead, I'm disabled. My wife has to look after me. My wife has to care after me. She has to stop working. So suddenly, I'm not just an open wound. I'm open wound that stays open. Of course, there's no comparison one to the other. Better to be dead instead to be disabled. I'm not saying this at all. I just state the fact that when I'm disabled, I'm a lot bigger burner for a longer period of time. Of course, the family will be happy to having me alive, but financially, it's an extremely bigger burden than if you are passed away and dealt with that, especially if you have enough covers. So which is called terminal permanent disability. So this is really for the person. So you still own a $1 million out of the $2 million assets. Okay, but I'm not able to produce the income I'm producing. What's going to happen? The question asked to you, how we deal with this $1 million loan? Should again take it in our shoulders? Maybe something happens to me, maybe not. More likely and hopefully not. But what about if this in 1 in 10, 1 in 50 happens to me? What's it going to do with $1 million? What's my strategy? Should I insure the $1 million? Maybe $500,000, maybe $250,000, maybe $750,000. But you need to go through that process and make a decision. And then you made a decision. That's good. So you consider, you evaluated, and you took action. It's better than just leave it somewhere in the universe and never think about, never talk about. So this is regarding the permanent disability. And of course, the most common thing is for the high income earners or any main earner income, it is the income protection that protects the income, 75% of the person's income, of the individual's income, if something happens to him or her, that she can't go to work due to illness or an accident. Say, for example, if you feel a bit lazy and you don't want to go to do your normal activities, there's no insurance for that. There's no anyone to cover. But if, for example, somehow you play water polo, I don't know, you play basketball and you hurt your back and you bound in a chair or in a bed for 6 months, how are you going to survive these 6 months? Do you have enough reserves to survive these 6 months or a year? If you do have enough reserves 6 months or a year to pay your mortgage, your food, your private schools or your public school fees or whatever it is, your expenses, then that's fine. You can take this risk on your shoulder. But if you don't have that funds, then you need to accommodate and say, okay, how much can I take on my shoulder? 50%, 30%, 20%? Nothing. Then you accommodate.
We've seen over the years, working with a lot of business owners and high net wealth individuals, that they can make a lot of money, but they also spend a lot. And we've seen that a lot of high incoming individuals, their burn rate is less than 30 days. And what that means is if they don't get a paycheck in 30 days, they're going bankrupt. And it's quite surprising. We've been speaking to people who are businesses are being impacted by coronavirus. And some of these people, they say if those factories, their factories don't open up in China in 2 months, they're going to be bankrupt. They're losing $1 million per day. And we've been speaking to these people. So when these events happen in business, it's obviously going to impact me. If I die, it's going to impact Nini. How can I protect her, but how can I protect my business partner? You know, last year, a very wealthy individual in Taiwan, he started an airline. He went to America. He was on a holiday. He was in his private helicopter. The private helicopter crashed, burned. He's dead. What happens to the deceased partner? What happens to the business partner? How can you protect yourself here?
There are a couple of issues here. When we go to business with a business partner, all of us, we hope and we wish that we're going to be millionaires and multimillionaires, and we're going to do very well. So when they come, these new business partners, to our practice, or to any accounting or financial planner, and said, okay, me and Daniel, we go in a partnership and we do this and this and this, and we are going to achieve this, and we have so much opportunity in this area. Everything is rosy, and everything, it is really very, very optimistic. So the first question the client asks is, okay, in which structure we really can have these entities to pay less tax? And all they care about, I'm going to make so much money, and how can I save some tax? And of course, there are solutions to this problem. And most accountants, they deal with that, and they put the appropriate structures around the investments according to the needs to the new partners. The two other things that most people forget is partnership. It is like a marriage. It's a bit harder than marriage, because, allow me to say this, in partnership, there is no sex that smooth and easy stuff. You know, with the partnership, this part of the sex smooths the differences and smooths things and calms things down. So in the partnership, there is no this, usually, there's no this element.
Usually.
So this makes it a lot harder. So everything is fine and rosy when everything is good, and the dreams are really, really high, and all the optimism is there. But you need to have something else also. You need to have a shareholders agreement, how we exit from this partnership or this arrangement. If I want to sell because I'm older than you, or if something changed to me, or something dramatic happens to you and you change your values, you change your way of looking at life, and you don't want this high life, intense lifestyle, to be a millionaire or multimillionaire, to be someone very under the public eye. How is the exit strategy? So the shareholders agreement does this. We agree Now we are both on the same level of both they want the same thing, that if you want to go out, this is the conditions. If I want to go out, this is the conditions. If something happens to me, this is the conditions. And we don't know if this condition ever come. We don't know if something happens to me or something happens to you, because we both of us hungry to succeed in this adventure.
Yeah.
Now the other element is, what about if I die? Do you really want to be partnered with my wife? My wife is a very nice person, but it has nothing to do with my core business, say marketing. She doesn't understand marketing. So she could be a scientist, she could be a teacher, she could be a doctor, very educated, very capable person, but nothing to do with my core business. You don't want her to be your partner, but she's going to inherit 50% of my shares. Then also the other side. My wife doesn't want to be partner with you, because yes, we have a rapport and you like me and I like you, but maybe you don't like my wife. Doesn't mean because we have rapport, our wives likes each other. Maybe actually they don't like each other, and usually they don't like each other because there is an antagonistic value, the antagonistic thing, because you're always at work, you're always with Daniel, you always do this, you always do that, I never see you, the family never sees you. So the wives usually don't like each other. So you don't want to be partner with my wife, and my wife doesn't want to be partner with you, usually. There is another thing. Okay, I died. The value of the business is $500,000, say $1 million for the business, $500,000 for my wife. How she can get this $500,000? You need to pay her $500,000 to get her out. Okay, who determines that it's a $1 million? Or we determine now. What about in 6 months or a year time? You say, no, the value of the business is not $1 million. You know, Dimitri didn't pull his way and he didn't bring this contract, and it's now 500. So I'll pay you 250. You like it or not like it. What's she going to do? She's going to employ experts, solicitors, accountants, drain money, fight. So the simple solution to that is a buy-sell agreement. And what is this? The buy-sell agreement, it is an arrangement that we say, if something happens to me, my wife, we get the value of the business through an insurance arrangement. So we insure my life for $500,000, and this $500,000, if I die, my wife gets $500,000, which is worth the value of the business, and my partner Daniel gets 50% of the business for $1 or for $2. So the benefit for you, if I die, is that you get your half, my half, for $2 immaterial. But also the benefit is my wife gets $500,000 secure because it's an insurance policy. And there is a contract. So if there is an insurance policy, an agreed buy-sell agreement through a solicitor contract, she gets $500,000 and you get the shares. And then this is what complements and what does really work very well. It's that, number one, you didn't pay for the half of the shares. You get it for free. Number two, my wife gets the $500,000 secure payment. It doesn't need you to approve or not to approve the $500,000. And also, maybe you have the best intention and you really like my wife and everything is fine, but you don't have the cash flow to pay the $500,000, because it's not every business has worth $1 million, has $500,000 in the bank account to withdraw. It's accounts receivable, it's stock, it is a future still money to come, it's commitments in the future. So it's not easy to get this value, 50% value of the business straight away, write a check and give it to the other side. So it is also constrained. And also the other thing is the value of the business. Now, you and me, we do the business, we do the accounts, end of the year, we go to sign the documents, the financial statements and the tax returns. We sit with our accountant and the accountant asks, Daniel, Dimitri, this is your business worth $1 million, congratulations. 5 years ago was nothing, now it's $1 million. Do you agree it's $1 million? Daniel and Dimitri, we have a discussion, yes, for sure, maybe even more, because if we get this contract, maybe there's more than $1 million. So we agreed between the two of us, the surviving business partners, that's $1 million. We don't know tomorrow if I die or you die. So the value of the business is always mostly correct. And then you review this every year.
So
and then every year, say, for example, you say the business is worth 1.2. We consider we should increase the insurance or we leave it as it is. Say then 2 years later is worth only 800. We should diminish the insurance policy to 400, or we should keep it $500,000. And this is a buy-sell agreement. Protects the business partner, protects the spouses.
So for somebody who wants to learn more about a buy-sell agreement, how can they get in contact with you today?
You can call my office on 9600-7760 or visit my website, syprivatewealth.com.au.
Well, I think for a lot of businessmen and women, they need to have a good conversation with their partner tonight. The husband will have to ask his wife, how much do you love me? And your question will be what?
Show me your insurance policy.
And let's see it begin. So ladies and gentlemen, if you are in business and you do truly love your spouse, and if you do truly love your children, you have to protect them and yourself. Inshallah, as we say, God willing, nothing will ever happen, but in the event, at least you're protected. And we recommend that you reach out to Dimitri today. Dimitri, thank you for joining us. One last thought.
One last thought is plan for the best. Hope for the best and plan for the worst.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us today, and we appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.